Okay, I know you're an alpha.
Life member. Beating somebody is dumb. So what has it led to? It's led to death. You can't come back from death. It's led to massive lawsuits. It's led to Divine Nine spending millions of dollars on settlements because some fool decided to hit somebody and made somebody run and somebody died from exhaustion. That is stupid. A mother or a father does not send their child to college to return home in a body bag. That is not what the process is supposed to be about.
CNN special report.
Inhumane, cruel, words used to describe his last hours alive. There is videotape of that night, almost start to finish.
What you realize is that you're watching him slowly die. What happened in that house and who was responsible?
Dozens of fraternity brothers face charges. One of the largest criminal indictments against a frat in history.
They fed him lethal doses of alcohol, and then they treated him like roadkill, like a rag doll.
The alleged cover-up.
We have new evidence. One of the fraternity brothers allegedly deleted the footage.
A scathing grand jury report putting a famed institution in the hot seat. If Penn State had been listening,
Tim would be alive right now. Yes.
what happens that makes you go to the police?
No one should die just because they want to join a fraternity. Should die just because they want to join a fraternity.
Tonight, a CNN special report, a deadly haze inside the fraternity crisis. A mansion made majestic by a wealthy alum named Don Abbey, who spent more than $8.5 million in one of the most expensive fraternity renovations in history. But beyond the perfect veneer, this beta chapter had a checkered past at Penn State, dating back to 2009.
They were shut down by the National Fraternity for alcohol violations, but they were able to come back under the condition that they would be dry.
In 2010, Beta reopened as a no-alcohol, no-hazing frat. But by 2013, bad behavior had returned with alcohol violations.
Don Abbey decided he was going to install cameras inside the house as a deterrent to make sure that the brothers behaved.
And by early 2017, Beta's reputation was back on top.
All indicators suggested Beta Theta Pi was a model fraternity.
So when the brothers offered Tim a bid to join them, he jumped at the chance.
He was kind of excited.
Because you get chosen.
I think that was important to him, that he be chosen. That meant that he was wanted.
Thursday, February 2nd, 2017. Tim and the other pledges receive a text from Beta Pledge Master Daniel Casey. Be outside the kitchen doors behind the house at 9:07. Dress code is shirt, tie, and jacket.
Before he left, he was just trying to finish up his homework, frantically trying to get that done before it was due the next morning so he could go to the bid acceptance night.
When Tim Piazza arrived at the Beta house that night, he had no idea he would never walk out again. It would take investigators months to piece together the full story of what happened that night and the alleged cover-up that ensued. Friday, February 3rd, 2017.
When he woke up the next morning and he wasn't there, we were able to get in contact with a brother in Beta asking where Tim was, and one of them texted one of my roommates and said that he went to the hospital that morning.
Immediately, Bennett called Tim's older brother Mike, who rushed to the local hospital.
He was totally alone.
Nobody had gone with him to the hospital.
The ambulance brought him to the hospital alone.
Did you realize when you were in that room with him the level of crisis?
Being in that room is something that I'll always be thankful for, but it's also something that's always going to haunt me. I was able to see how bad it was. He was on full life support, and his eyes were half open. And he was banged up really bad.
Unconscious and gravely injured, Tim was airlifted to Hershey Medical Center. So you arrive at the hospital, and what happens?
The doctor said, "I'm sorry to tell you, it's a non-recoverable brain injury."
I was holding Tim's hand, and we were all talking to him and saying, "We love you." And a tear came to his left eye and rolled down his cheek. And I looked at the doctor and I said, "Is there any chance he could hear us?" And the doctor said, "Maybe, because we relieved the pressure in his brain." So, you know, maybe he heard us there and knew he was not alone. But if he heard us, then he also heard all of the people around him, and then he knew he was going to die.
At 1:23 a.m. on February 4th, just 29 hours after he walked into the Beta Theta Pi house, 19-year-old Tim Piazza died. The cause of death, traumatic brain injury resulting from several falls. Surgeons also found a shattered spleen and severe abdominal bleeding. You asked the doctors at the hospital whether Tim would have stood a chance if somebody had called 911.
I said, "Listen, if he would have gotten help sooner, would we have a different outcome here?" And the doctor just looked at me and he said, "Yeah."
That has to be really hard to hear.
It was a knife through my heart.
If somebody had done the right thing.
One person. One person.
Coming up.
What happened in that house and who was responsible? The death of 19-year-old Tim Piazza in February 2017 launched an intense and wide-ranging investigation. It would become one of the largest criminal indictments in history against a fraternity and its members.
Morning, guys.
The natural secrecy of a fraternity often prevents prosecutions.
But this case was different. There is videotape of that night, almost start to finish.
Immediately, our detectives learned that there was some sort of recording system in the house. When we started to watch it, we were literally stunned.
Stunning video, combined with text messages, smartphone records, and hours of witness interviews. A Pennsylvania grand jury detailed the gruesome events of that night in a 65-page report.
You could absolutely hear a pin drop in the courtroom.
CNN correspondent Sarah Ganem has reported extensively on the Piazza case. She's one of the few people to see video taken from more than 12 high-quality cameras positioned all throughout the house. Edited excerpts shown in court, but kept from the public, at the Piazza family's request. Have you seen the video?
No. I have no interest in seeing it.
9:07 p.m., Thursday, February 2nd. The pledges arrive. The brothers sing songs and read from a book. 56-year-old live-in beta advisor Tim Bream looks on.
He actually watched the bid acceptance ceremony from a balcony.
What did Bream see? He would be forced to testify in the hearing months later.
Good morning.
But that night, immediately after the ceremony, 14 pledges, 12 of them under the age of 21, march into the basement. Brothers subsequently told detectives the cameras down there were broken.
It turns out, a little bit later in the investigation, police realized they were working.
The FBI would later recover the video from the basement. That's where the gauntlet begins. Can you describe what the gauntlet is?
You basically just run through the house, and there's like stations of alcohol, and you're supposed to drink it as fast as you can. And people are like yelling at you.
Encouraging you to drink.
Encouraging you to drink as fast as you can.
It begins with a handle of vodka. The brothers are made to stand in a line and pass it between each other until it's empty.
Next, the pledges run through stations manned by the brothers. Shotgun a beer, run upstairs, chug from a wine bag, then back downstairs for beer pong.
In a house that's supposed to be alcohol-free, Tim Piazza goes from 0 to 18 drinks in 82 minutes. His blood alcohol was nearly 5 times the legal limit to drive in Pennsylvania.
Approximately 10:45 p.m. The brothers party on as Tim Piazza staggers towards the basement stairs.
He is so inebriated that he's walking almost like a zombie. He fell on the steps. He was unconscious.
2 minutes later, 4 brothers carry Tim's limp body into the Great Hall.
When they carry him back up the stairs to put him on the couch, his shirt is lifted up so that you can see a bruise on his abdomen. And it's very clear they are trying to wake him up. So someone throws some sort of liquid on his face. Someone hits him. Somebody shakes him. At one point, one brother sits on his legs so he can't roll over. You can see this brother checking his phone, and he told police he was checking sports scores, while Tim is laying there he's agitated, he's trying to move.
Less than half an hour after the first fall, Cordell Davis walks in.
What did you say?
People standing around the couch, pointing and laughing. So I walk over, and right away I kind of look over Tim. He looked horrible. And he was thrashing around, making awkward movements, and he was kind of making sounds where they're unintelligible. And they're like, he's gonna be fine. He needs to sleep it off. And I said, we actually need to call 911.
You were trying to sound the alarm. You were saying, we need to call 911. And what was their response to you?
The response was, you are overreacting. And at that point, someone gets off the couch. They're just very angry. They shove me against the wall. I wasn't expecting my own fraternity brother to assault me. So I go over to the vice president, and I'm like, honestly, Tim could have a concussion. We need to wake him up, call 911, and get him to a hospital. And he's like, that's a myth. They're saying, we're kinesiology and biology majors. This is what we do.
CNN reached out to both Beta brothers for comment. Neither they nor their lawyers responded. Close to midnight, a brother sends a group text message. Piazza might actually be a problem. He fell 15 feet down a flight of stairs, hair first, going to need help. But real help never arrives, and no one calls 911 that night.
Another brother throws a shoe at him. Another brother appears to hit him right near that bruise on his stomach. They're doing things that look like they're trying to get him to snap out of it.
In the wee hours, Tim is left alone.
It's now the middle of the night, and Tim Piazza is no longer unconscious. He's going for the door, and several times he falls into the door or falls into furniture near the door. He clearly hits his head on the floor. He clearly hits his head on the metal staircase. During a lot of this time period, he's simply just rolling around on the floor, clearly in pain. And what you realize from watching that portion of the tape is that you're watching him slowly die.
Nobody stayed with him. And then he got up. He tried to escape so many times. He tried to live. They all went to bed. They all got a good night's sleep.
Around 7 a.m., Tim makes his way back to those same steps that he fell down before. He's unable to even take a few steps without falling, and he disappears off the screen. They're very steep steps. And then you see nothing for a few hours.
Around 10 a.m., brothers find him in the basement and carry him upstairs for a second time.
Timothy appears, frankly, he appears deceased. And they put him on the couch.
This time he is stiff, completely motionless, and he's white as a ghost.
The brothers search Google on their phones with terms like true or false, a person with a concussion should be kept awake, and cold extremities in drunk person.
You could see them looking at his stiff hands and trying to kind of pull them apart, pushing his hands back, and then his hands folding back.
Around 10 a.m., brothers find him in the basement and carry him upstairs for a second time.
Timothy appears, frankly, he appears deceased. And they put him on the couch.
This time he is stiff, completely motionless, and he's white as a ghost.
The brothers search Google on their phones with terms like true or false, a person with a concussion should be kept awake, and cold extremities in drunk person.
You could see them looking at his stiff hands and trying to kind of pull them apart, pushing his hands back, and then his hands folding back.
About 45 minutes after they bring him up for the second time from the basement, two things happen. The brothers begin to clean up the house, and then someone calls 911.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
What police later said is that they were directed to clean up before 911 was called.
We have a friend who's unconscious. He hasn't moved. He's cold extremity. He's probably in an ambulance.
More than 12 hours after Tim Piazza's first fall, help is on the way, but it would be too late.
They killed him. They fed him lethal doses of alcohol, and they killed him. And then they treated him like roadkill, like a rag doll.
The death of 19-year-old Tim Piazza,
Let's be honest, this didn't have to happen.
thrust Penn State swiftly back into the national spotlight.
Fraternity brothers at Penn State refused to call 911 until it was too late. Is it conceivable Penn State wouldn't know forced drinking events went on at fraternities?
I think Penn State needs to be responsible. I think we need to clean up our frats.
In the weeks after Tim's death, Beta Theta Pi was closed down by its national fraternity and permanently banned by the university. Soon, Penn State tightened rules on Greek life.
We are going to do everything we possibly can.
Penn State's response to Tim Piazza's death on the surface was of shock and dismay.
Sarah Gannam joins me now from the courthouse.
Reporter Sarah Gannam covered several fraternity hazing cases.
When you dig a little bit deeper, their main pushback is that they feel like they're hamstrung by the fact that fraternities are technically off campus.
Short of us sitting in that house on private property, privately managed, if people are willing to hide that type of behavior and protect that level of secrecy, I do not see how it is the university will ever know that it's happening and that any rule that we make will stop it.
The challenge of stopping it is not unique to fraternities at Penn State, according to President Barron.
We have a national problem that is associated with excessive drinking and unfortunately a history of hazing.
And the numbers do bear that out. While there is no central tracking system for Greek life incidents, since 2005, there have been more than 77 fraternity-related deaths across the country.
They are very, very deadly.
And there are more dangers. According to Penn State, Greek life comes with a 50% higher rate of sexual assault. And reports of excessive drinking 4 times higher than the average student. Despite the risks, young men still flock to fraternities.
Greek life is more popular than ever. There are almost 400,000 men, and that's up 50% over a decade. Each fall is the peak death season. The freshmen arrive, they're wooed by the various fraternities, and then they begin what's innocuously called pledging, which is really a 2-month period of abuse and dangerous behavior.
One of those freshmen was 18-year-old James Vivenzio. More than 4 years before Tim Piazza joined Beta Theta Pi, James spent 12 weeks pledging Kappa Delta Rho at Penn State. In court records and grand jury testimony, he detailed the dangerous hazing he endured. When you say they would haze, what does that look like?
Your pledge master would just start yelling and just telling you to start doing push-ups, sit-ups, wall sits. You'd have to be drinking just disgusting concoctions of liquid that would induce you to vomit, having to drink the amount that they were forcing you to drink at the lineups.
What's a lineup?
It's when you all go into the basement, your nose against the wall, and the brothers can do anything to you. make you smoke 4 cigarettes at once, hit you, beat you, anything could really happen in a lineup.
Desperate for help, he tried to report the hazing to Penn State.
It's a confidential hazing hotline, and I put in, KDR has a lot of bad alcohol hazing, please do something. And right away, the president of my fraternity knew. And so everyone was looking for the narc, trying to find out who the rat was. I was seeking out help here from the institution that accepted me as a student.
No local chapter could be reached for comment. KDR National says it did not learn of Vivenzio's experience until 2 years after it happened. That's when they started their investigation.
Being here today. The only organization responsible for disciplining the fraternities is not Penn State University, but was an organization run by members who were part of the fraternities.
In a December 2017 report that called out Penn State for rampant and pervasive hazing in its Greek community, the grand jury recognized the student-run Interfraternity Council, or IFC, as having the power to sit as both judge and jury, deciding guilt as well as punishment.
Who's looking over their shoulder to make sure they're doing it right? Nobody.
It's a system Penn State would later change, but one that failed James Vivenzio in 2012, even after he was initiated as a full-fledged KDR brother. You had made it.
I did.
You made it through pledging.
It's like the switch just gets turned off. Now they're all nice again. And that was the hardest part for me. After what I saw him do to people and what I saw him do to myself.
After that school year, James returned home defeated in June 2013.
I was too exhausted. My grades, I'm pretty sure I had all F's and a D.
By the spring of 2014, he reports hazing to Penn State for a second time. A Penn State administrator drives to the Vivenzio home in Virginia.
I showed him all the documents, pictures I had, hundreds of pages of just text messages, just detailing out hazing.
What was the response?
We know this is happening.
That's what this official said?
Yes.
We know this is happening?
Yes.
After that meeting, James Vivenzio re-enrolled. So in fall of 2014, you returned to campus, to Penn State. What was that like?
It was a nightmare. KDR was operating the exact same way.
James still had access to a private Kappa Delta Rho Facebook page and group text messages.
I just kept on documenting things, taking screenshots, taking photos. Penn State wasn't going to do anything. I wasn't going to keep on letting it happen.
Coming up, James Vivenzio turns whistleblower. What happens that makes you go to the police? For more than a year, a battle has raged on in this Pennsylvania courthouse.
Any comment today what you guys expect?
A total of 26 former Beta Theta Pi brothers have been criminally charged as a result of the death of 19-year-old pledge Tim Piazza. Many of them stand trial next year.
These kids weren't monsters. They used extremely poor judgment, some of them later in the night, by refusing or failing to provide medical assistance.
A sprawling case, with counts now ranging from hazing to alcohol-related offenses to tampering with evidence.
Cover-ups and tampering with evidence is absolutely common in fraternity circumstances because brothers take an oath to have their brothers' backs. Then they take an oath of secrecy to the national fraternity.
What's it like to look at the faces of these young men? What's it like to be in the courtroom with them?
There's really been no show of remorse at all. And it's difficult looking at them. Because you look at them and say, why didn't you help?
The first member of the Penn State fraternity to plead guilty has been sentenced.
So far, at least 7 guilty pleas for hazing and unlawful acts involving alcohol.
Hopefully others will take responsibility for their actions in the killing of our son.
Jury trials are scheduled to begin in February 2019, days from the 2-year anniversary of Tim Piazza's death.
We will obtain justice for the Piazza family. That process will take time, but we will get there.
As court proceedings grind on, the Piazzas continue their
What's
fight
going on
to
with that,
end
Josh Shapiro,
hazing.
that case?
No more college students should die for just wanting to join an organization.
In many states, hazing constitutes a minor misdemeanor, punishable by, say, a fine of $500.
Pennsylvania's Timothy J. Piazza law makes hazing a felony if it results in death or serious injury. With its passing, Pennsylvania joined at least 12 other states with tougher anti-hazing laws.
Had this law been in place before, I would like to think that we would not be here today.
The destruction is far-reaching and forever. The Piazzas share Tim's story with college students all across the country in the hope of preventing another tragedy.
Hear that,
They've
Divine
also
Nine?
started a foundation in Tim's name. As their eldest son, Mike, finishes his degree at Penn State, Jim and Evelyn keep Tim's room just as it was.
This is a letter that Tim wrote to himself. It says, "Dear Tim, hopefully all is well. Don't sweat the small stuff. Relax a little and enjoy life. Contact family more. I don't know how long any of us will be around, but cherish everyone."
When you read it, it's almost like he had a vision. He made a comment, you don't know how long anyone's going to be here.
I know. I think so too. How do you describe Tim's legacy?
I believe his legacy is one that is going to cause change for the better and to help people. That's, for me, that's Tim's legacy.
I know you're an alpha.
Life member.
Life member. So,
and never let no dude hit me. That's the dumbest shit I've heard in my life. Hazing is so stupid to me.
you know, okay, we can go down this road. And I want to move the interview forward. But you are always in support of the Divine Nine.
Yeah.
Always.
Skate just like you did when you did the yoga.
Chilling surveillance video of college freshmen pledging a fraternity. They're being marched downstairs, blindfolded. It happened at the University of Missouri's Phi Gamma Delta fraternity house. And if you think this was a no big deal pledge night ritual, look what happened to Danny Santulli. That's Danny in the green blindfold. And this is Danny today, unable to walk, talk, or see.
I'm sad for him. You know, just what he went through that night, and he didn't deserve it.
The extraordinary video released to Inside Edition by the family's lawyer shows the tragic timeline. 9:55 p.m. You can see Danny inside the fraternity house carrying a bottle of vodka. His family says he was told to finish the bottle before the night was over. 10:22 p.m. Danny is still trying to finish off the bottle. A frat brother pours beer into Danny's mouth with a funnel. 10:55 p.m. Danny falls over. Some frat brothers carry him out of the room and drop him on a couch. 12:28 a.m. Danny slides off the couch head first. 12:43 a.m. After apparently checking for a pulse, the frat boys lift Danny off the couch and carry him out, but they accidentally drop him on his head. By the time they brought him to the hospital, it was too late. Danny wasn't breathing and his heart had stopped. His blood alcohol level was an extraordinary 6 times the legal limit. Doctors managed to revive him and placed him on a ventilator. I spoke to Danny's dad and sister. It's the nightmare call that no parent wants to get.
Oh, my God, it's the worst thing you can ever hear. I mean, my wife was hyperventilating. The minute I saw him, it was like, wow. Tubes everywhere, the machines beeping every 2 seconds, and doctors, nurses running in and out.
Danny's older sister Meredith, also a student at University of Missouri, says it's frustrating to see some of the young men involved still on campus.
I am honestly disgusted that they
are just allowed to wander the campus when they almost killed my brother.
Danny's family shared these touching home movies with us. That's how they want to remember him, rather than what's on that disturbing pledge night video.
This is without a doubt the worst fraternity hazing injury case that there's ever been in the United States. It couldn't be any worse and have someone still be alive.
2 members of the fraternity have been charged with felony hazing. The Phi Gamma Delta fraternity says Danny should not have been put in this situation. They add that they prohibit hazing and prohibit giving alcohol to minors. They also say that chapter is now closed.
How you at? Oh, it's cool.